Okay, how are we? I'm sorry if you can hear bubbles being blown. I keep trying to do these videos without him, but like when he's sleeping, but the second I press record he wakes up, so I've just kind of given up and he's a fixture. Keeping it real. Anyway, today's video is the most requested video I've had, and if we go back like 3 years, it would have been my most, like, what I was requesting from other content creators, because I needed help with it, and I've done a lot of trial and error on this. It's all about what to put your babies in overnight when you're using reusable nappies, cloth diapers, and how to stop them leaking, how to get through the night without having to change them, how to wake up in the morning without having to change your sheets. He's going to go for the tripods. I'm sorry if you start wobbling. So the number one question I get is, can I use what I've already got? Like, I've got day nappies, I've got all-in-ones, I've got pockets, and the answer is yes, you can use all of those overnight. Of course you can, but it's not going to work for the majority of people through the night. Some people manage to get on with like pockets through the night. The thing is that you're going to have to remember is whatever you use, you're going to have to boost it more than what you use in the day, because daytime nappies are only like designed to make it through maybe 3 hours, 4 hours max. So you're going to need to boost it with something. So if you're using a pocket nappy, you could boost it with something like hemp, which is like the most absorbent material you can buy for a cloth nappy. Hemp booster like this one could go in a pocket nappy, and that potentially could get you through the night. But like I said, for the majority of people that won't work, and that's because the more you boost a pocket nappy or an all-in-one nappy, the harder it is to get a good fit. You're only going to be able to boost them so much. So I find for the majority of people that just doesn't work. Are you coming to say hello? So what I use and what most people use for overnight is a 2-part system. For example, this is a nappy. I'm going to call this a fitted nappy, although technically, because it's got birth to potty poppers, it's not a fitted nappy, but that's what we'll call them. They're just a completely absorbent nappy, so obviously they're going to be more absorbent than just a pocket nappy with an insert in it. This is one from Top Spots. We use these a lot at night. They work really, really well. They're quite slim for this kind of nappy, so they're great. That means you can add an insert into it. Happen to just have a matching one there, and you can also add inserts on the outside of it, so you can make them really, really absorbent. You then will need to add a wrap to go on the outside of it, so that's why it's a 2-part nappy. In that time of trialing different things, I used all the wraps that I had, and none of them were really working, and I found that's because the more I stuffed inserts with them, so I was buying more inserts and boosters, like hemp boosters, bamboo boosters, which are the 2 most absorbent materials. Sorry for the interruption. So I was finding that the more I boosted the nappy, the harder it was to get a good fit with those wraps. Of course, the elastic is then sitting on a wet nappy, so if the nappy's really saturated, I then found that you would get leaks around the elastic where it was, yeah, just getting so wet and then wicking through. So I have found the ultimate thing that works for nighttime is to have good airflow. In step, the Mother Ease airflow. It's all in the name. So this is a Mother Ease airflow wrap. You'll look at it and think, that's not going to work. How's that going to hold anything in? Because they almost sit like shorts. So you want them quite loose on the leg to sit, not tight in the nipple line like you would other nappies. Can I show them? But to sit, I'm going to stand up, to sit almost here on baby, and it's loose. You want it to be loose, you don't want it to be tight, which is another reason it works really well for nighttime, because the elastic's not sitting close to baby, so it's not like rubbing or being too tight while they're sleeping all night. But the idea is that the fitted nappy underneath is fitted nice and tightly, so there's not going to be any, like when baby floods the nappy, it's not going to leak out everywhere. But you can also then put, so you're not going to have big gaps where we could leak out, and you can add as much absorbency as you want, because these airflows, they're supposed to be baggy, so you've got room to add stuff in. You can also do things with the same thing with something like the Petite Lulu PUL pull-up. Can I get that right? These are great, especially when like they get to this size and they're just wanting to stand up all the time, because they work like a pull-up. So you get the first bit of nappy on. As they start to get fed up of it, sit them up, pull it up. These, the only time I found these haven't worked is when they start getting too small, and you'll think they still look big enough, but if the if the nappy is sitting too close to the fleece is designed to wick moisture away, so then it could wick moisture onto they could wick moisture like onto their pajamas or onto clothes. So you want them to sit really backy and not have the cuffs, because the cuffs are all fleece sitting on the nappy. So that's easy, just size up with them. In fact, however big you get them, they're absolutely fine as long as they're not like falling down, which they wouldn't be. It makes them really comfy. It doesn't matter if there's like a gap here, they don't need to be tight on baby's legs. It goes against the grain of everything you've learned from day nappies, and making sure that the elastic sits in the little line, making sure there's no gaps. You're going the opposite at night time, and you want there to be airflow, you want it to be comfy, you want nothing to be sitting on that nappy inside, because essentially the nappy inside is going to hold everything in, but it is going to get saturated, especially if they're wearing the nappy all night, which hopefully they are. Hopefully you're not having to get up and change them in the night. You don't want that saturated nappy sitting against the elastic, against the fleece, or against their pajamas. You want it to be just held in by that nappy. But you also want them to be comfy, and that's why wool also works. So it's the same thing. A wool nappy gives a bit more airflow, it's breathable. You lanolinize them so they're waterproof, they're really comfy for nighttime. I won't go too much into wool because I have done a complete guide to wool nappies, which I will leave the link to in the description and at the end, so you can look at that and see how they work really well for nighttime. But these are the three that I use consistently. Actually, he's wetting so much that even wool's not really holding him in at the moment, so I'm currently using the airflow for my son, because that is the best against a really heavy wetter, which he is. With my daughter, I'm using, who's bigger now, she's 3, she only wears nappies at night, I'm using the Petite Lulu or the wool, and they're just really comfy for her, so it's great for bigger babies. The only downside for all of these nappies is that they're sized, so you are going to have to buy bigger ones as they grow bigger. But like I said, always size up. So I would even go 2 sizes bigger than you think. I have extra large Motherese airflows for my daughter, which she's not really wearing anymore, and if I run out of the medium size for my son, who's only 8 months old, I will use the extra large on him, and it's absolutely fine because they've got like 3 sized around the leg. So if I do it on the tightest setting around the leg there and the tightest setting on his belly there, then it's small enough to keep it all in. And this looks really baggy on him, but that's fine, and his baby grow holds it up a bit. So the bigger you go, the longer it's going to last you, and you won't have to buy more quite so soon, and the more you'll be able to boost in them anyway, and the comfier they will be for baby, and I just think they will work better that way as well. Last thing to bear in mind, if you're using these kind of nappies that are fitted, usually they don't have a fleece lining in. You will need a nice big fleece liner, because obviously if they're sitting in the nappy all night and it's getting wet, you want a fleece liner anyway, but I try and find the biggest ones that I can, so that as much of the nappy isn't touching their skin, so that they feel dry for as long as possible throughout the night. So just to sum up what you're going to be looking for at night time, you're going to want something that's kind of really absorbent, like a fitted nappy. You're going to want lots of inserts. So this one comes with the Tot Spots nappy. This is a Baba and Boo hemp insert. If you buy hemp inserts, don't be put off by the fact that once you wash them, they look really weird and like they sort of shrink a bit and they go a bit stiff, but that's fine. They're really absorbent for nighttime, and obviously because it's at night and they're in a big nappy, it doesn't matter that they're sort of a bit bulky. And then I always add in as well like a little lamb one. I'm a big fan of these because they're really slim but very absorbent. They're made out of bamboo from Little Lamb. Then you're going to want something that lets the air flow. So I usually put in this guy's 3 boosters, which sounds like a lot. He looks like a sumo wrestler when he goes to bed, but obviously he's not really moving around very much when he goes to bed, so it doesn't matter. He seems really comfy. His baby grows don't always fit over them, so I often leave them just unclipped at the nappy, because that is something to think about, or I size up. It means he's got really long feet hanging off the end. But again, he's going to bed, so he's not like moving around much or crawling about much at that stage, so that doesn't really matter, but it's something to think about. You're going to want a bigger baby grow or just leave the bottom unclipped. Definitely go for something like my 3 faithfuls, which are the Motherese Airflow, a wool wrap, or a petite Lulu pull-up. And that's because you can add so much extra absorbency without it becoming too bulky and compromising on the fit of the wrap. That makes them really versatile on how much you do or don't boost. They're really, really comfortable for baby at night because obviously there's not elastic digging in anywhere, and just works really, really well. So if you're struggling for night times, and even if you use disposables, you might want to try out cloth at night time, because I know a lot of people have problems with disposables leaking at night time as well, and give it a go. And if you're still having trouble with them leaking at night time, do a little troubleshoot. How wet is the nappy feeling in the morning? Are all the inserts completely soaked? If they are, then you might want to add more inserts. If they're not, but they've leaked anyway, where's that leakage coming? Is there fleece sitting next to a really wet patch? If they're a boy, maybe the front's getting really wet, and if you're using a wrap, it's touching. Is it wicking through that way? Make sure that the nappies you're using, like the fitted nappy underneath, is in good condition. Some of my older ones that I bought secondhand have started to bald a bit, and the elastics have gone a little bit on them. So if I do get a leak, it's from those nappies, unfortunately. So I'm going to probably have to replace those, but that's because, yeah, they're old. I think I've probably put them on the radiator one too many times, which I know you shouldn't do, but like I've run out of night nappies and thought it's not dry, and just pop it on the radiator quickly. So that may have shortened the lifespan of them as well. And I just washing over time, I think the elastics have gone. They could be replaced. Last question that I get asked is a good one, of how many night nappies do I have? I used to just have 4, and I found that was when I ended up putting them on the radiator, because these do take a long time to dry. They're often made out of bamboo or hemp, which is great because that's the most absorbent, but obviously that takes a long time to dry, so they take a good 48 hours to dry. So if you've got a rotation going around, you need, you're washing every 2 to 3 days, and then you need 2 days for them to dry. So 4 was never enough for us. I now have about 6, and that's perfect. As for wraps, you don't need as many wraps. Obviously the Motherese Airflow is just the PUL waterproof bit, so that dries really quickly, so you could just have a couple of these, but obviously make sure you wash them and get them out in time to dry. If you've got wool, like I said in the wool nappy covers video, if you watch that, you only need a couple of these, 2 to 3, because you don't wash them very often. You just hang them up to earth when you're not using them, and then wash them every few weeks. And what I didn't realise about the petite Lulu ones is that you don't need to wash them every time either. You can just wipe them down and leave them to air. So as long as they're not soiled or really soaking wet, you could use these for 2 to 3 days, just let them air in between, and then wash them. So you don't need as many. Probably 2 to 3 wraps would see you through, no problem at all. And I think that's everything for nighttime. If you have any more questions about nighttime, I'm always happy to answer them in the comments, or come over to Instagram and ask me some questions there. If there's something I've forgotten to say, or a situation that you've come across that might help. I've done so much trial and error. I'm sure I can help you with that, or certainly ask around and point you in the right direction of where you need to go. So don't be afraid to come and ask questions. Do subscribe. Do like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Many thanks. Bye bye.